Good afternoon. I'm David Williams and I'm the leader of Hertfordshire County Council. Welcome to this meeting of our Cabinet this afternoon. I'm joined by all the members of our Cabinet, Teresa Heritage, the Deputy Leader of the Council and the Executive Member for Children, Young People and Families, Derek Ashley, the Executive Member for Growth, Infrastructure, Planning and the Economy, Phil Bibby, Highways and Environment, Terry Douris, Education, Libraries and Localism, Terry Hone, Community Safety and Waste Management, Tim Hutchins, Public Health and Prevention, Richard Roberts, Adult Care and Health, and Ralph Sangster, the Executive Member for Resources and Performance. Before we start, I want to make the following announcement regarding the arrangements for this meeting. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, this meeting is being held electronically in accordance with the relevant regulations. Members of the public are able to view the proceedings live streamed on YouTube and also on demand by following the link that's available on the Council's website. Members of Cabinet are asked to keep their microphones switched off until called to speak and to switch their microphones off once they've finished speaking. Cameras may be left on throughout the meeting if members wish. If you experience connection or other technical issues, it may help to switch your camera off. Cameras should be switched on if and when speaking in the meeting. To indicate a wish to speak, members should use the raised hand function. Use of the meeting chat function is exclusively for voting. At the end of the debate, there will be a vote. Members should vote using the meeting chat function by indicating for, against, or abstain, and I will declare the result after each vote. So the first item on the order paper are minutes. Now the minutes of our meeting from last Monday's meeting on the 23rd of November will be considered at the next meeting of Cabinet and the next scheduled meeting on the 14th of December. Item number 2, questions from members of the Council to executive members. There are none. Agenda item number 3, public petitions. There are none. Colleagues, you're reminded that all equalities implications and equalities impact assessments undertaken in relation to any matter on this agenda must be rigorously considered prior to any discussion being reached on that matter. And also, of course, I would like to remind members if they have got a declaration of interest to declare that they should do so. So we have one item on the agenda this afternoon, and that's the COVID Winter Support Grant. And this meeting follows a meeting of the joint Cabinet panel of, on the one hand, the Children, Young People and Families Cabinet panel and the Education, Libraries and Localism Cabinet panel, who considered a report on this item at the meeting at 10 o'clock this morning, and will be reflecting on that discussion and also then the recommendations that are set out in the order paper. But to introduce this item and to update us on this morning's meeting, can I first ask Teresa Heritage to share her feedback with us? Terry, you're muted at the moment.
Sorry, too much time on here today. Yes, just to remind colleagues that the joint cabinet panels this morning was being held to discuss how we will be delivering the winter COVID support grant during the next couple of months to children and families, vulnerable children and families. You recall that the government has issued several pots of money in relation to supporting families, and this has to be looked at in the whole context. So the meeting this morning was primarily about the Christmas holidays and then running on from that, the February half term. The officers have done a tremendous job over the last few weeks actually on pulling a whole scheme together. And I really like to take the opportunity to congratulate them into what they have achieved. And actually, both panels did that today. A lot of work's been put into it. So I'm just going to reflect on what was said. as a reminder, the funding that we have, which is £2.549 million, we are able to at least use 80% of the total funding to be ring-fenced for supporting families and children, with up to 20% being for individual households, and 80% needs to be, in effect, used for food and energy bills. And all of this 2.49 million has to be spent by the 31st of March 2021. It's not very far away, and that's before Easter, or just at the start of Hertfordshire's Easter holidays. So the proposals that we've been developing is the provision of, we've been using free school meals as the main proxy. Given the amount of time that we've had to pull together the data, that was the easiest data and the most up-to-date data that we have. So free school meals for eligible children, funding of that over Christmas and the February half term. And then we've been developing a range of other programmes to support families and other children and vulnerable adults who don't fit into that free school meal category. Just as a few numbers for you. So at the November census, I think, or perhaps about a week ago, we were given the figure of 23,535 children in the county taking up free school meals. That's from reception to year 13. And there are 811 young people in colleges in receipt of free school meals. The potential size of the others, as it were, who don't take up free school meals is 15,000 infants, that's the 0 to 4s. Families with benefits that are capped, that's 4,000, and there's 750 care leavers. We've also got those children who are educated out of county, but live in Hertfordshire. And at the moment, officers are looking at ways that we can work with other authorities to perhaps do a reciprocal agreement. And then there's also families with no recourse to any sort of support. So that's sort of the social care angle for the moment. So over to Terry Duris to talk about the more school-based part of the project.
Thanks, Teresa. Terry.
Thank you, David. Yes, as Teresa has said, it was agreed that every child would get £30 in total over the Christmas period and £15 in total per child over the February half term. Teresa has already mentioned the funding criteria for the vouchers. Now, I should point out that before we chose the voucher route, we did actually go through a considerable period of discussion about the best route to go and the most effective route in terms of delivery. And vouchers were considered to be the best by far, on the basis that they are the simplest to operate, they're the easiest to understand, and they give really a straight line in terms of organisation and delivery, which I'll touch on in a moment. And as part of this evaluation and delivery, I would also join with Teresa in complimenting and thanking the staff at the County Council for doing a fantastic piece of work. It was also decided that we would go with a chosen provider for the vouchers, the Family Fund Trust. Now, this is a company that it's a trust which we have used on a number of occasions. They are well accredited and extremely reliable, so we had very great confidence in being able to go with them. It's also interesting that with regard to the eligibility of the take-up, there were questions this morning as how would people actually get to know about this, and I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people who would be in receipt of free school meals would be very aware of what methods there are to obtain this additional facility. And also, it's worth just making the point that the take-up of our Healthy Start food vouchers has been fantastic, and within the last month, the numbers in receipt have increased from 3,555 to 4,871, and this is in no small measure due to the work that the Money Advice Unit and other departments within the County Council have done in promoting this particular facility. Going back to the actual vouchers, they will be available at a choice of the recipient of one of the 4 major supermarkets: Asda, Morrisons, Sainsbury's and Tesco. There were some questions this morning about the availability or the ability to use vouchers in other outlets. This has not been promoted or has not been found to be applicable at the present time. I know that during the summer period, when the government organised their own voucher scheme, they did get 1 or 2 other companies in, but also there were some other companies who, possibly by dint of the fact that they operate a franchise scheme on their smaller outlets, weren't able to participate. And I think that's probably the case with some of the situations today. And I think that answered the questions, or one of the questions that was put forward. The way the system will work is that the free school meals data download will be taken with including successful applications for free school meals after the 1st of October census up to the 30th of November. On the 4th of December, we as Hertfordshire will send the data to the trust, and the voucher emails will be sent to schools on the 7th of December. And we will be asking schools to distribute either electronically or physically, if parents don't have the facility, either on their mobile phone or by computer, to distribute these in the school book bags for their children. At this point, I think I would also say in advance a grateful thanks to all our schools who will be participating in this, or we're asking to assist us in this, because I know that coming up to Christmas, it's a very busy time in any event, and this is even more stressful this year. So my early thanks to all the schools in anticipation of their absolute support and help. I think that's probably all I need to say at the present time, but simply to say that we are confident that we will be able to get to all the children and all the families that should be in receipt of these vouchers. The schools know who they are, and that's the way that the best way to go ahead. So what I would also finally say is that I think that the general response by member colleagues this morning was very positive, and that they had a number of their questions answered and clarifications made. And it was interesting that the meeting lasted for 1 minute short of 2 hours, which gives some indication of the extent that we went to. So thank you very much indeed. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I am going to ask other colleagues.
Sorry, David, can I just come back with a little bit more information, if I might?
Of course,
yeah.
Terry.
Yeah, thank you. So I've already indicated that our main proxy was free school meal children. I just wanted to give you a little bit more information around those other groups and how we're going to find them, because that's half of the challenge. So for children with no recourse to public funds and family centre and families with infants and families on benefit caps, there will be access via Families First and also family centres. So that's where there's going to be the bulk of the information out there for families to find out about what's going on. And we will be targeting the food banks as well with information. We're working with partners, and we've already, obviously, via all the COVID support, we're already working with the district councils. And so for families without children, there, for instance, we've got 2,500 young people who are actually currently working with Hearts Young Homeless. and they will be receiving a £10 festive food voucher and other advice and support. There's about 500 homeless adults, and they will be getting support via the wider system as well for funding. And the individuals in crisis will be working, as always, with Heart's Help Crisis Intervention Service. So that's working across children's into adults. And again, there's going to be more of the enhancing the voluntary people assistance cell, working with the families. So there's going to be a lot of support and a lot of information there. And I'm hoping that over the next week or so, those support information packages are going to be out there, and members will be kept up to date. We indicated to colleagues this morning that we thought that John Birch's every other day now, isn't it really, advice document will contain the information. I ought to say that at the meeting, the Labour group raised 2 amendments to the motions. The first one was in relation to the general support, the programme, as it were. And they were seeking the government, or seeking the county and government, to put more funding in towards the end of 2021. And then there was also looking for more support from county. We did debate these 2 motions. They fell, but I did assure colleagues at the meeting that I would tell Cabinet that there is concern from the Labour group that there will not be sufficient funds to support all the families in the county from now until the end of the year in relation to food poverty. I know colleagues are very keen to ensure that we make sure that there is full support for all families, and I did reiterate to colleagues following a question from one member that we had already undertaken to fund free school meals over Easter and the summer holiday, spring half term in effect. The conversation, we didn't get on to the fuller package of the holiday activities, but I did inform members that we would be discussing this, and the output from the Christmas exercise at a special combined Cabinet panel on the 27th of January again. So by that time, we will have hopefully some statistics about the take-up of the vouchers, which nationally we hear is normally around 80%, but we're hoping for more, and we're going to do as much as we can. And then we should also, by that time, have the initial thinking, well, not just the initial, the medium-term thinking around the delivery of holiday project. And the holiday projects will be a big piece of work between all sectors, public, private, and third charitable sector. Really big piece of work, which we'll be working across the system on. The Labour group were also very concerned about poverty and digital poverty, which is something was a new term to us, but and I did assure members that I would be looking at ways that we can dig a bit deeper on that particular subject, and Richard Roberts and I have been talking around that. So that's it, I think. So happy to take any questions. I don't think I've missed anything, have I, Terry?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you both for your comments. I'm obviously pleased that the whole question of how we signpost these arrangements and how we secure the participation of those who may start facing economic difficulties after the school census. I think Cabinet colleagues will know, and indeed those watching this broadcast may know, that the announcement has now been made that Hertfordshire, when we come to the end of the national lockdown restrictions on the 2nd of December, will go into tier 2 of the new local COVID arrangements and restrictions. And one of the concerns I've got is that that will have some impact upon the hospitality sector, because the requirement is that you cannot meet socially with others, and that you do need to have a substantial meal if you're in a pub or a restaurant. So this may be a bit of an inflection point in terms of the hospitality sector, and so our ability to pick up new vulnerable children as we go through will be important, and having the right signposting gateways in will be key. Terry, you mentioned the work of the family centres and also the contribution that they are making to the take-up of the fresh food vouchers for pregnant and new mums. I think it is important that we make the point, and that we do recognise and that our residents recognise that we do have a network of over 80 children's family centres, previously known as Sure Start centres, and in many areas people decry the loss of these arrangements, but in Hertfordshire we're blessed in the fact that we have still got a significant network of family centres supporting our new mums and pregnant mums. Points have been made about the concerns whether there'll be sufficient funding going forward. Yesterday we had the spending review announcements by the Chancellor, and I have to say, from my perspective, the outcome has exceeded my expectations, given all the challenges that the government is facing at the moment. The arrangements represent a 4.5% increase in local government spending power, and that will be an important element in terms of supporting vulnerable families in Hertfordshire going forward. So I think we can take some confidence from that. Included within that is the ability to raise the social care precept once again, and so we will need to give serious consideration to whether we wish to do that in order to provide the support that we can see our residents will need. The other thing I think it is important to recognise is that in the Blue Book, which summarised all of the arrangements, there was the commitment to continue to fund schools in accordance with the undertakings that have previously been given. And then there was specific announcement in relation to funding for delivering the £220 million holiday activities and food programme to provide enriching activities and a healthy meal for disadvantaged children in the Easter, summer and Christmas holidays in 2021. So it's good to see a commitment in relation to that. So I am going to invite Tim Hutchins. Tim, do you want to comment?
Yes, I do. Very briefly, I think this is, from a public health perspective, these proposals are very important. And I just wanted to recognise and say thank you to the officers who've put in an enormous amount of work to get to the point where we are today. And also to recognise the two Terrys, because I know how difficult and how trying this has been, and they worked immensely hard on it. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Any other comments or observations from Cabinet colleagues? If not, I also want to recognise particularly the work of Jenny Coles, our director, and Simon Newland, our operations director in Children's Services. They and their teams have worked flat out to put these arrangements together, to put forward the proposals that were in the paper considered by the Joint Cabinet Panel meeting earlier. And out of that, of course, stems then the recommendations and the proposals that we've got in front of us. So if there are no further comments from colleagues at this time, the proposal on, sorry, I can see a hand up.
Yeah, so David, can I just say one more thing? Sorry.
Yes, of course.
Just when you were mentioning Jenny, Simon and the team, can I just say at panel today, and it was really good to see them, we had two colleagues from adult care there, Christy and Julie Albury, to talk about how we're connecting together. And I think it's important to say thank you to them as well, because they were running around as well, helping our officers get the voucher scheme together. So grateful thanks to them. I just thought I must mention that. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Thanks, Terry. And yes, the the close linkage here with the so-called volunteering and people assistance cell that Christy in particular is responsible for, and all the work that was done on shielding and the support for vulnerable families during the first lockdown. It's important to recognise that contribution, but then their involvement going forward. Terry Douris.
I really also just wanted to mention Juliet, Whitehead and Felix Gilding, who have also worked tirelessly, and I don't think any of us realise the huge number of hours that all the officers put in, and the complexity that goes behind these schemes. They appear very, very straightforward once they're on paper, but there's an awful lot of work that goes behind them.
Thank you, Terry, for that. So let's turn to the proposal at 4.1 and 4.2. Namely that Cabinet agrees to the provision of food vouchers to parents carers of each child eligible for free school meals to the value of £30 for the Christmas holidays and £15 for February half term, and that to an initial allocation of £1 million for a further programme of support, the details of which will be developed in the light of emerging government guidance. And then at 4.2, we're asked to note that a further 490,000 remains available for further allocation. So can I ask you to indicate in the chat function how you are voting for, abstain or against? So yes, that is carried unanimously. So again, thank you for your participation at this extra meeting, and a particular thanks to Teresa and Terry for hosting the Cabinet panel meeting this morning and for informing the decision that we've been able to make this afternoon. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon, no doubt. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.